what is software testing? It's basically a very, very important step in the SDLC. Previously in the waterfall, we have seen that you first have the requirements, then you do the design, then you work on the development. And then finally, after about a good few months, we introduce what we call as testing. So till about, as I said, in the project that I did, till the 10th month of the project start, we could not have the testers on the team. Only we brought the testers in on the at the start of the 10th month. Yeah, at the start of the 10th month of the project start, which is like a huge reason for the debacle of that project. Because if they came in earlier, they would actually start working on it. They would actually try and look at all the scenarios. They would start writing the test cases, test plans, making sure we have got all of these ready from different perspectives, not just the functionality, but also from performance, from load, from security, from system testing, from the performance aspect of it, from the availability. All these things would have been taken care of if they were brought in earlier. So again, with Agile, it's very important that you start thinking testing first. In fact, there is a method, there's an Agile methodology called TDD. We're going to discuss that in one of the things, deep dive sessions in the coming weeks. It's called TDD, test-driven development. The whole approach of this is actually you start with a test case. You don't even start with the stories. You don't start with the code. You actually start with testing. You write up test cases. You execute the test. You fail them, and then you again try and write up the code to make sure you try and pass those test cases. So after about 3 or 4 iterations, which is what the 3 weeks, at the end of the 3 weeks, the goal is to pass those tests that you have written. So that's what is called a TDD, test-driven development. Very, very popular set of tools and set of methodology there. We will try and go through that in detail, but just that tells you how critical testing is in the success of Agile projects. And when you talk about testing, what it really means is you're talking about validating and verifying the features of a product. So you're validating in terms of, are we in the right track or not? And then verifying, have we done it the right way? Right? So the validation and verification is about doing things right and doing the right thing. So it's about prioritization and also doing things the correct way, efficiency and effectiveness. This is called the V model. You would have heard about it or seen something like that in some of the other cases, but V model has been the traditional approach for the verification and validation in the waterfall kind of projects. So you start with scope, you do the architecture, design, then low-level design development. This is the waterfall, right? And then the other side, you actually continue with this. You've got a test strategy, you've got acceptance testing, system testing. And by the time you've got the development, the coding done, you'll have something to actually do the unit testing, to actually integrate those different modules and then come up with the actual the system test cases and stuff like that. So this is basically the V model. And then you already had a look at it. In fact, we came out with what we call the inverted V model, is what I call it as. This is more of like a way to how I would present it. It's nothing to do with, there's no fundamental change in the concept. I'm not creating a new concept, but I'm trying to present it in a slightly different way just so that you understand the same structure and same set of activities and artifacts, but in a slightly different projection, basically. So I've actually given here to the artifacts or the kind of activities that we do as part of each of these steps in the process. So development, by this time you can actually have the prototype, and then you can actually showcase the prototype to the users. And then we have on this side of the spectrum, we've got the testing done. So test strategy is ready. As we evolve, as we start with the scoping, you've got test strategy ready. As we start with the architecture, you've got acceptance test cases ready. And as we start with the system design, your system test cases and the integration test cases and the module test cases, and then finally the unit test cases will be ready by the time you actually, even before you start development, you can actually come up with the test cases for each of these, the functional test cases, performance test cases, and you do the different types of testing as and when you complete it. So you actually are not waiting for something to complete, for the development to complete and then start the testing. You actually are having a head start with respect to the testing. So the validation and the verification are starting quite earlier in the project, so you don't have to really worry about the quality. The quality is actually the first outcome of this kind of an approach. And also you do the user testing. So you've got use cases, user stories. You actually look at acceptance test case, you write system test cases, integration test cases. All of these will actually contribute to the whole spirit of this whole thing is you're testing. You started testing much earlier. You're not really doing it waiting till the 10th month of the project start, but you're actually starting with the first day. You're actually having testers in the team. They start thinking in terms of the test first, and then they actually test often the regression test. Remember the regression testing I was talking about? So you don't test once, you actually test repeatedly, continuously across. Every time you deliver something, you need to test not only that piece of functionality, but also all the pieces that you have done so far, all the features that you had delivered till then, so that it is not impacting them working well. So that this is testing often, testing more frequently, and testing with